It's always an exciting day when Vanishing Inc. drops a new magic book for the book-loving community, which is basically us. However, even though this book was published by my employer, Vanishing Inc., and I'm part of the team that helped to produce this, it didn't resonate with me, and I'm going to tell you why. So what is the book, who's the author, and what do we need to talk about here? The book is Mosaic, which is a compilation of all of the best tricks that Christian has released between 1978 and 2021 in German. The book itself is a very large cloth-bound hardback with almost 450 pages. There are 7 different sections with over 30 different routines taught. What kind of routines are these? They're items with coins, stones, paper money, dice, more traditional props like cups and balls and cards, as well as some very unique effects using props like mini golf clubs and Jastro illusion cards. In addition to the tricks that you'll learn in this, there are also a couple of essays in the back that help you to get to know the author a little bit better by sharing an article that was written about him in a magazine, and the author himself addresses you with some of his thoughts about scripting. The author is very obviously a Renaissance man of sorts, applying his skills to make his own props in many cases and coming up with a lot of really clever ideas. With all of that said, you might be wondering, well, why didn't this resonate with me? And the reason for that is because sometimes the greatest strength of something is also its greatest weakness. In this particular case, I feel that the author is somewhat of a tinkerer, someone who really wants to apply his skills as a craftsman to manufacture his own props. And when I read through a lot of these effects, that's exactly what stood out to me. You're going to need to make a lot of this or buy a fair bit of things to perform the routines in the book. Let me give you a couple of concrete examples. In one of the cups and balls routines taught, he manufactured his own cups by making them out of metal. Later in the book, he has a Chinese sticks routine where he made his own sticks. There's a wand he made called the click wand that makes a noise when you perform something like a striking vanish, which is a really cool idea. But in order to get one of those, you either have to try to manufacture your own, unlikely, or buy it from a dealer. Specifically, in this latter instance of the click wand, it appears to be out of stock everywhere right now, so you're left with how you could manufacture your own, but it's unlikely that you'll probably go to the work of doing it. Normally, when I read a magic book, I try to envision myself performing the effect, or not, as the case may be. And in the case of a lot of these, I really just couldn't picture myself performing it. But that doesn't mean that you won't find value in it, or you won't be able to see yourself doing it. I recognize that I'm more of a mentalist, and there wasn't a lot of that material in here. However, even the card tricks taught at times required you to manufacture something. So again, you're seeing that theme recurring over and over again, that Christian is a tinkerer. He loves to make things and apply them to his magic, and that's actually really cool. But it just means that it's not going to be all that practical for the everyday magician who picks up this book. I've read a lot of books over the last 5 years in running this channel, and many times the main thing that I get from a book has to do with the presentations or some sort of nuances that I otherwise hadn't seen before that I can think about, incorporate into my act, or otherwise cross-reference with another magic trick. However, I also found that a lot of the scripts in these tricks were pretty straightforward and more of a narration of the props as you read through the sleights and the presentation that he offers. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that all of these scripts and presentations and tricks work beautifully in the hands of Christian Scherer, and I know this for 2 reasons. He's won multiple competitions in Europe and been an advisor to a number of other magicians who greatly respect his magic. And the second reason is because you can actually watch these tricks in effect if you buy this book from Vanishing Inc. Over the years, Christian has captured video performances of him doing a lot of these routines, so you get to see exactly how they should look from the perspective of the author. Now, let's switch gears a little bit though, because I've kind of talked about why this didn't resonate with me, but let me explain how it might resonate with you. But before we do that, let me tell you about the sponsor of this week's video, Don's Magic and Books. Whether or not this book resonates with you, the beauty of Don's website is that you are bound to find something that will. And that's because Don offers not only the most recent publications, but also older, out-of-print books that we all find so appealing to get our hands on and get them in our magic libraries. I know that Don has personally helped not only me, but many other friends find books that they were looking for that they didn't think they ever had a shot of obtaining. And he did it for an excellent price, which is one of the reasons why it's so easy for me to suggest that you visit his website, which I'll link down in the description below, and see what the latest offerings are there. Not only does he have great prices, but he also offers fast and free shipping. No matter what you're looking for or what resonates with you, check out Don's Magic and Books this week. Switching gears to the things that I liked about this book. The author clearly understands the importance of crediting, and throughout the book you're going to find some very detailed and technical footnotes at times. These are some of the most detailed academic and technical footnotes I may have seen for quite some time. And in fact, there were many times throughout the book that he pushed me back into my library. I pulled some books off the shelf so that I could take a look at the routines that he was cross-referencing. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the variety of the performance material is there. There are items with coins and cards, pendants, cups and balls, a couple of ball manipulation type of routines, a version of a 3-cup Monty, and he even revisits a couple of classic effects from the likes of Paul Harris like Reflex and Invisible Palm Aces. His thinking on Reflex was actually pretty great because he eliminates all of the double lifts typically associated with the trick, and instead you only have to focus on one double lift. Check out his thinking on that if you haven't already. Most of these effects do have a genesis as some sort of classic trick, and then he's put his own spin on it, and he's typically interjected some other way to change up the trick, maybe eliminating a sleight that he didn't like or some logical inconsistency that didn't work for him, and often creating his own props. If you're the type of magician who likes to make your own props and has a machine shop, then you might love this. I'm not personally that interested in creating a bunch of props for routines that I'm not sure I'll ever perform, but as they say, your mileage may vary. From an artistic standpoint, he's also a genius. I called him a Renaissance man before because as you read the book, you'll see that he likes photography, he's been engaged in magic both as a performer, a competitor, an advisor to others. He's worn a lot of hats in that arena. Most germane to our discussion here, he actually illustrated the entire book himself, which is extremely impressive. All of the illustrations are tastefully done. You really won't have any trouble learning the routines. The one quibble I guess I did have with the artistic direction was the use of the italicized font for both the headers and all of the spoken lines. It was actually a little bit difficult for me to read. It's a serif font with extra curvy letters that all kind of blend together. It's not going to keep you from learning any of the routines that you study, but I just found it to be somewhat of a distraction and something that I didn't personally care for. The entire book is kept fairly simple with the illustrations, and as previously mentioned, footnotes where you can find cross-references to some of the tricks he's talking about. From my perspective, nothing special, but also nothing to complain about, aside from the aforementioned italicized text. For that reason, I'm giving this a 5 out of 10 on the artistic score. In terms of some of the other metrics that we typically assign a rating to on this show, the practicality is pretty low for me in this book. A couple of the tricks you'll be able to do right away with props that you probably have lying around. But for the vast majority of this, you're going to need some kind of specialized prop that you may be able to buy, or you might have to make it yourself. So while I have no doubt that he's made this work for him, my practicality score really applies more to the everyday magician, you and me. And for that reason, I have to give this a below average score of a 3 out of 10. The cleverness of the routines might make it up to you, but as it stands, I don't see that you're going to be performing a lot of this material right away. The difficulty, as usual, is intermediate. When you start to read these routines and recognize the props that you're going to need, it means that you likely have to have been accumulating some magic for a while to have that, or even know what he's always talking about. For example, his mini golf club routine revolves around a Benson bowl type routine with appearing golf balls. If you don't know what a Benson bowl is and you've never heard of an appearing golf ball, then you get my point. So the value prop on this. The book is $60, and for a 450-page hardback with solid production values, this feels like it's solidly in line with the market right now. How much value you get out of it is largely going to be dependent on the type of magic that you like to perform. I've already given you a broad overview of what's involved, so if, as I was talking about it, you saw yourself enjoying that kind of magic, then you're going to get more value out of it. However, if you are not someone who's into making your own props, then this will hold less appeal. Overall, I'm giving this a 4 out of 10. Not because I think it's a bad book by any stretch of the imagination, but because, for all of the aforementioned reasons, it simply didn't strike a chord with me. I did read it all the way through, but it doesn't feel like a book that I'll be returning to often. However, if you disagree with me, or even if you've made it this far into the video, sound off down in the comments below with your thoughts on this book. Oh, and if you want to see some of the books that I thought were a ton of fun to read, then check out this video I made for you. As always, my friend, appreciate you watching. Till next time, keep reading.